Hello! Today,
Hey,
World Socionics Society interviews Ihor Pidruchny. Hey Ihor, how are you?
hello, I'm fine.
Good. Right, let's start with the first question, shall we? Question
Sure.
one. How did you get into typology?
All right. In summer like 2009 or 10, actually both, one of my developers that worked in my team, he was into Socionics,
Hmm.
and he typed he typed other people around us. He gave some comments about like what configurations are fruitful and not. But I didn't really pay attention to this uh, until where I ended up working in a team of extremely great individuals that actually couldn't work as a team. So we had a lot of unfruitful type of interactions when we did the startup. And in the end of the day, I was like, okay, so what are their sociotypes, I guess. And so the configuration that was there was extremely bad. And at that moment, I really started to believe in socionics, and started to really pay attention to it.
Hmm. And what interested you in psychology in general?
And say it again.
What interested you in psychology in general?
No, well, I think that human potential. Uh, so I first like I was very I was like a grungy guy in my youth. But when I entered the university, I had and very very depressive personality. But when I started to work at university, like when I was in university, I started to work as a salesman. I was selling some cosmetics, and the books over there. They told, okay, if you want to sell more, you should be positive. You should look great. You should behave well. So pay attention to how you look, how you behave. And this is when I started to really pay attention to the whole potential of the personality.
Hmm.
And then so I studied for computer science, but I turned to be like I discovered that myself I'm extroverted, and I'm way too irrational to stick with some programming activity for a long time.
You can't sit
Um,
still.
Say it again.
You can't sit still.
Yes, yes. So then, I thought, okay, maybe my best economical value is actually in managing other developers who are introverts, who are usually, very rational,
Hmm.
logical guys, but they work in their own boxes, but they cannot connect the boxes together into a bigger something.
Hmm.
So I saw my role there, and I said, okay, I have to be a manager as my, throughout all my lifetime. And being a manager, I committed a lot of mistakes. And I see that, management overall is just like it's mostly about human management. It's about like managing people, putting people into the right places, picking up the right people, actually motivating them, having, setting up the right expectation in front of them and all stuff like that. So, I think that like human topic is still not disclosed nowadays.
I see. So very clear that you work as a manager.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what is your approach to being a manager?
Uh, well, so my approach is specifically, um, so first of all, I cannot do a lot myself. I cannot concentrate, not because, naturally I cannot, but because I have too much of interactions over Skype and email and stuff like that, and I seem to be liking this. So I do not reject those. And it really, makes hard time focusing on something. So my strategy is really on assigning people to the tasks based on on their human predispositions, based on their personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see a person is very logical and rational and maybe pushy, he is great team lead. If the
Hmm.
person is, introverted and very much negative, he is a great, analyst, or he would be able to, to stand on the side and just see the pitfalls.
Yes.
If this is some nice girl who is very light and she's very, outgoing, then should be a great marketing manager and stuff like that. So this is how I manage things.
You was like it's like obviously you got all these different blocks, and you're trying to move them into the right place to form the perfect team. Let's say that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yes.
would you say that okay? Would you say that you enjoy being the manager? Is that the position that's best suited to you?
Mm, yeah, I think what I would enjoy the best would be to be a passive founder of something and enjoying the dividends. But
Ah,
but for now, being a manager is okay, I think.
yes.
I like it.
So you'd like to be able to start up like multiple different opportunities and ventures, and therefore have them ticking along while you're where you can when you just get the money from that.
Yeah, I would say this has been the plan. Recently, I have noticed that, so I have some expectations in terms of each of those startups,
Hmm.
and the thing is that when I think that my vision is better than anybody else's vision, then, I don't have any other choice but just doing things myself.
Hmm.
And so in the end of the day, I just ended up, focusing on one startup really, well, and paying a lot of time to it, which is Socionics.io. Uh, because I thought, like, in the end of the day, I just saw that other businesses, they are not taken off without me. So I have to be a CEO really.
Hmm.
And I said, okay, like, this is something that I would want to devote my time to bring to real success. Maybe become a global startup and stuff like that. So uh, here, I would be happy to have, like, to diversify into many businesses, but I think that in the end of the day, it just doesn't work.
At the end of the day, you kind of need to concentrate your efforts on a particular venture and push that one up towards success, rather
Yeah,
than keeping lots and lots of plates spinning where some of them may fall and smash, and you might not get the rewards that you had hoped for.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so so there's definitely a sense of of devotion and commitment over necessarily variety.
Yeah, yeah, I would say so.
Hmm. Um, okay.
But
How do
but
you?
you see,
Yeah.
this is rather the forced thing. Like, life taught me that my
Yes.
nature would be in diversifying, really. Like, because it's funnier. Like, when you focus on one thing, you like it turns to be dull over time.
Hmm.
So, having a lot of things should be funnier, and I would enjoy it better. But I just see that it doesn't work, so I have to focus.
And do you find that you're naturally the sort of person who has the broader perspective, where you try and have more and more things going on at once?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you're naturally driven towards that specific method, but you found it hasn't worked so well, and so you prefer to concentrate your efforts on one particular area and push that one up to be the top.
That's right.
Okay, dokie. Um, how do you behave at home when you're on your own?
On my own without the family,
Yeah, just on your own.
uh, usually it's uh, like, I'm messy myself. I may not go to clean my teeth for hours, and only when when it's apparently too late not to have breakfast, then I have to go and brush my teeth
Yeah.
and make some breakfast and stuff like that. Um, I listen to music,
Mhm.
um, and usually not doing anything specific. I don't have any obvious hobbies. Um, I'd say emails is my hobby, is my like the way I spend time is just my computer and internet and
Mm.
reading something or improving something in business.
Hmm. Okay, so in other words, your work kind of is your play, as it were. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so you don't really have your hobbies and interests are in the idea of actually getting projects sorted, working on them, and improving them. Okay. Um, how are you with family?
So family, I have a wife and a kid, which is 5 years old, son. Um, so I love him a lot. I think sometimes I'm too soft with him.
Hmm.
But it turned to be for better. Like he is growing and in a very, supportive atmosphere, and he shows very high level of maturity and consciousness as for a 5 years old kid. And with my wife, I'm joking a lot. Sometimes the jokes are a bit brutal, so I noticed that, I'm trying to provoke her for some, let's say, stronger interactions with me.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like when I ask myself why I make the jokes like that, or why sometimes I say things that uh, you know eh, s some other people would really not get it.
Hmm.
She does because she is that kind of personality. She is a peacekeeper, by the way, a sensory ethical introvert.
Yeah.
But I do this for somehow enforcing stimulating the interaction between us.
Ah, okay. In other words, so you're a bit more. Your way of interacting is a bit more rough, as it were. It's a bit more. There's a certain amount of friendly aggression, as it were.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I see. Okay. And how are you with friends?
Mm, easygoing, supportive, challenging, spontaneous.
Hmm. Okay.
And I'd say inspirational. Like I tend to think that I inspire people, especially friends, for some actions when they have doubts about things.
Hmm. I see. So in other words, you often seem to be. We say you're more of the strong person that other people can rely on.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Hmm. So in other words, if they're usually the ones with the problems, and they then come to you because you kind of had it all sorted out.
yeah.
Hmm. Okay. What are you good at in life?
Um, I I don't know if it's good or bad. Like I think that in modern society it's a little bit, uh, especially in the West society, it does not necessarily work well. But I think my strength is in ability to do without thinking.
Hmm.
In the meaning that I don't like I don't worry too much about what will happen in a way far future. If
Hmm.
something seems interesting or perspective for me, I just make a decision to start it, and
Yeah.
then I try to allocate all the resources and situations so that you know to 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 implement the idea.
Yes. So in other words, you're the doer. So you're
Yeah.
fine with you know what you want to do. and then you immediately take it into action, and you then go and you do it.
Yeah.
And you're not the one who sits around trying to think about how it may turn out. You start it out, and then you move people into position almost on the fly.
Uh, so you know what I'd like to add to that. Mm, not that I'm doing anything right away.
Mm-hmm.
It usually happens in a strange way where I think about something, for some time, but it's just a thinking. It's not planning at all. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, something like it's not anything like I'm trying to foresee things and plan. I'm just thinking on the very conceptual level, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'm forgetting about it, and then in a year from then I get back to this. I have,
Mm-hmm.
I'm somehow better prepared for this. Like I have this idea is kind of, lives with me already, and then I immediately start and do things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, exactly. So you have this idea, and you have these, and you may not necessarily act on that idea right there and then, but you still entertain the idea in your head, and then later you actually go and actually implement it when you feel it's the right time.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and there's a, right. What are you bad at in life?
Um, I think in forecasting, in planning,
Mm-hmm.
um, in anything that requires details, like sitting over the spreadsheet and doing the something, anything like a business plan or profits analysis. I would
Mm-hmm.
only do that if I have if I'm pushed by deadlines. Like tomorrow, I have a um, I would have a meeting with an investor or something like that. Then today I would sit and I would make a spreadsheet for that. Um, what pisses me off is when people come to me with some people-related problems, like especially when people, complain about each other, then this pisses me off because I think it's counterproductive, and then I cannot comment on that. So it's like, someone is coming up to a deaf person and trying to get the answer from him, which is apparently will not work.
Mm. I see. So in other words, yeah. So you're good at implementing problems and solving problems. But when it's specifically people related, that's when you feel you're not quite able to deal with it.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. You're basically you're problem solving specifically one where it's literally objective problems, and you're able to sort things out in a way where they objectively work in a better way. And also, as soon as you're taken to a subjective area, you have difficulty with that transition into the subjective.
yeah.
Okay.
Like if we need to do something, something clear, like here is the deadline, we have to ship the product by this time. Then I'm gathering my team. We are doing all we have to do to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
But we set aside all emotions, all unnecessary communications, anything that is not straight to the topic.
No, I'm busy. Sorry.
And if it is, a lot of blah blah blah, or people start, getting into some political issues at work or stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
it just pisses me off a lot.
So sorry. So I think I got distracted there. Sorry about that.
Sure, you want me to repeat?
Yes, just that. Repeat that bit. Yes, please.
Yeah, so the last I said is that I'm pissed off when people get to some like get involved with some political topics. I mean, like political issues at work. Like I mean, instead of working, they make some politics with each other. Like they are trying to make coalitions and uh, and compete with other people for, for recognition or whatever.
Yeah.
I just hate it.
Ah. Okay, that's interesting. So, yeah. So, in other words, when they sign to form like interpersonal, they're forming like specifically. You don't mind competition. You don't mind the idea of people working together and dedicate themselves to something. But if it sort of shatters that sort of group working togetherness, then you find that you really don't like it. Like when they're like different smaller factions forming out of the cohesive whole. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So as long as you always value this idea of so I know certainly in the way you run business where people kind of feel as if they're together on something. There's a sense of people often you have like a group chat say on Skype, and everyone is together. Everyone can like give their own opinion on what they feel, how they feel the group should go ahead, and kind of when that kind of fractures into smaller relationships and smaller ties where one person is more loyal to another person than loyal to to the group and as a whole, that's when you feel as if things aren't really working out for you and things aren't really
Yeah,
working out for your business.
precisely. Yeah.
Okay, good. Um, right, so what brings admiration and criticism from others?
Say it again.
What brings admiration and criticism from others?
About me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people admire just being with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like due to some, what I say, a charm that I have. Like when I come into, I usually work out of office because I have offices in different cities.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm not there, people have a lot of questions and stuff like that. But when I come and when we talk in 10 minutes, like usually a person says, "Hey, I had so many worries and questions and whatnot. Now I
Mm-hmm.
feel I feel fine. I feel confident. Everything is okay."
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I'm being criticized uh, for being not enough well structured, uh, not too much business aggressive, I'd say.
Not much. So not enough structure in your day-to-day life. So
Yeah.
not enough.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah. Sorry, I thought. Sorry, the connection went a bit funny there. Um. Okay. And what brings admiration and criticism from yourself?
Let me check in with Melanie and we will come back to the soonest. What? The hell is she? Can't bother talking English. Very like off. Oh
I don't know really.
You don't know. Yeah, okay.
No.
Um. What? Okay. What do you admire and criticize in others?
Uh, what so I admire things that I think I don't have. It's like being um, being very soft and gentle and being in a kind of attractive personality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I admire devotion to things. Uh, I especially admire, intuitive, ethical introverts. In the
Mm.
way how, in first place, they, you cannot tell a lot about them and how they work. But then, based on the results, you realize that, these people have, they've been silent, so they didn't like show up and show off a lot. But the the depth of their understanding of the topic is so great that like they spend a lot of time and they totally integrated this topic in their head. I admire that. I admire loyalty a lot. Like when people get through hard times together and they do not give up, they don't quit the team.
Mm-hmm.
I value that a lot. And I admire structure when people are very decisive and concrete in things.
Mm-hmm.
And what I don't like in people is like when they are too expressive, like almost like clowns. I'd
Mm.
say I hate people who are like clowns. They don't like without any purpose. They are socializing a lot and they are trying to be so good for everybody and great and center of the team without the obvious necessity for that.
Ah, I see. So in other words, for you, there's like there is a sense of decisive purpose in everything in everything that needs to be done. There needs
Yeah,
to be so not only do you like a sense of actually people being united and together and working together, this sort of team solidarity, and but you find that if that same team solidarity is placed in a way where it seems frivolous, you kind of find it, you kind of look down on it because it seems to be kind of missing the point. It kind of misses the idea there is um, that there is something to actually fight for, something to actually strive for. And so when someone's being very expressive and happy around the group for no apparent reason, you feel it maybe just cheapens it.
yeah, that's correct. Maybe it's because I don't find any satisfaction in that. Like when like in Silicon Valley, for example, I had to visit, socializing events. Just
Yeah.
I did it for business. Like it's not because I'm personally, interested in those. Like I would rather just walk along the bay and watch the city and just think about something if I
Mm-hmm.
want to, to have a pleasant time spending. But those places like social events, I call them chicken farms, where hundreds of people come together to just drink and chat and meet, uh, meet the amount of new people that they will not be able to memorize well. So next morning they will not really recall all the people from the event, and those conversations they were very superficial and like I just don't get it.
Yeah, you kind of need. It's like you need to actually have a strong. What's the word? You need some sort of meaningful connections to other people, and you feel that this sort of fleeting moment with someone is not really as meaningful.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Um,
I think that, like, yeah, I think this reflects me very to a very strong degree. For example, well, like my attitude to friendship and family is that, if you really want to be, connected with friends and family, you have to do business with them, or you
yeah.
have to do something together. Otherwise, it will be just, drinking beer and, chatting about stuff,
Hmm.
but you will not be connected to each other in a very real way.
Yes, you like the idea of there being actual real physical demonstrations of connection between people, and when you
Yeah,
kind of have the same goals uniting you together. Whereas if it's just something where it's almost too fanciful or too frivolous, where you're seeing someone just because they happen to be there and just making the best of it, and then when you go away, you may meet someone else completely different and see them. There's nothing really strong tying you as a group together.
right.
Okay. Describe your ideal place, setting, or world. What does atmosphere and surroundings be?
Can you repeat again?
What would be your ideal place, setting, or world?
um, what do you mean?
So, like a really, really good place, a really, really good. a good area where things which you like are happening?
Well, then I think it would be Silicon Valley, a
Mm.
place where where uh, there is a lot of Tesla cars, and owning a Tesla car, and there is a good quantity of supercharge stations where you can charge your car, and Teslas have the priority lane for them, uh,
Mm-hmm.
despite despite the quantity of passengers that you're driving. Like you can be driving yourself, and you can use the priority lane uh,
Yes.
24/7. Um, People talking about business a lot, so business is their lifestyle, and in doing business is really easy. Like you don't have any bureaucratic barriers for doing business. Um, Always warm, um, very. It may sound funny, but like I cannot say that it's the equal society, but because this is the area where only rich people live, like poor people just cannot afford the property there.
Mm.
So it's very clean, and there is a lot of social equality like within that group.
Within that
Like
particular group.
yeah, yeah.
Ah, okay. That's very interesting.
So it's almost like an ideal society where nobody is littering. You will not see beggars. You will not see people shouting and on each other and yelling and anything like that. I like this idea. Like it's almost the ideal community.
Ah, exactly. I love how you specifically focus on the idea of being a community, and also how, although there is certainly some sort of class divide, it's not within the community. Outside the community, there may be differences, and there may be different levels of opportunity, but certainly within that community, everyone there is almost on an equal footing,
Yeah.
and everyone there is kind of grouped together in their values in that community.
Yeah, yeah. They have the average similar level of consciousness and traditions and behaviors.
Yes, exactly. And also, they share in these behaviors, and they have these
Yeah,
these community, not quite rituals, but certainly regularities which allow them to identify with each other.
yeah.
Okay. Um, right. What would the philosophy of this environment be? So, what would their values be?
Hard to say.
Okay. Well, we can skip that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, describe a bad place or situation where you feel hopeless in fear and insecure. What would be causing these insecurities?
Oh, so apparently everybody hates poor places. Like we have a lot of those in Ukraine where,
Mm.
people that are from the middle class, they are very conscious and ecological, but people below that, and most of the population is below middle class. They are drinking too much, they are littering, they are, whenever we want to go out in the park with our kid, we are
Mm.
seeing a lot of people who are drinking in public places and stuff like that, and this just pisses me off. Like I usually approach to them and make them a notices, and if it
Mm.
doesn't help, I call a police
Mm.
because I just hate that. So I think poverty is like and mental poverty, like when people don't start with they complain about the world, but they don't start change within themselves. And then when you start talking to them and appealing to the fact that they are littering around them, not anybody else. It's not the president, not the government. They have just made this shit over here, and people don't see it, and they use anybody else as the excuse for
Mm.
for not doing things the right way themselves.
Exactly. It's almost as if the community, and the standards and rules of being in the community are something which need to be followed in
Yeah,
that community. And it's usually when things are going wrong, it's because individuals are refusing to actually go by these rules of the community that create that sense of togetherness.
yeah, yeah. Like when people don't see that any of their actions is actually, not only influences the community, but
Yeah.
also it spoils their, level of life because they are living in this area.
Mhm.
Uh, like when people are limited against seeing that, it pisses me off. Like I think that this is a primitive behavior, which has more of the animal versus like, being a conscious human.
Yeah, that's it. That's very interesting. Yeah, yeah, the idea that the the, the person who shows unhuman or uncivilized behavior are those who can't really identify themselves being part of a greater whole, who only see their own actions, which would be selfish.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, right. What do you feel about the world we live in? What are your opinions, affirmations, and criticisms of the present day?
Oh, I think that we're living in a very great world, and it is changing as never before. So it gives a lot of opportunities. Um, like I think I'm lucky that I became a software engineer, so I have a connection with the new tech,
Yeah.
and new tech is like a new delimiter between people who live poorly, and they'll be living more and more poorly. They'll not be able to afford to choose cheaper Amazon and stuff like that just because they reject the idea of learning new stuff.
Hmm.
There are people who are open to new stuff, and they'll be benefiting from
Yeah.
that
The other one,
regardless of place. They will be in the Silicon Valley, India, Ukraine, Japan. Doesn't matter. If you're
Yes.
open to this, you belong to the golden billion. If you
Yes.
don't, then you're kind of lost.
like the W.
Hmm.
That's the one.
Um,
Gone off the
so it's
it,
I mean this is the era when you can get from
and
one
there's
state to
another
another state very easily by just changing the way you think. So, for
Hmm.
example, even like if you use Twitter, and if you only start thinking about how do I get rich, for example, or how do I master something, if you start searching for it, if you start following at least one person that is talking about this topic, Twitter will be automatically suggesting you the similar topics, and then other advertisers, they will identify that here is your area of interest, so they will be feeding you ads that is connected to your area of interest, and you're almost automatically will be taken into the right wave. Let's make it this way, like into the right direction. And you just have to soak it in. You need to start and not to um, and just to be ready for for the information that will be practically flowing in your way.
Okay. So there's definitely sense that there's an idea of progress. You can see the idea that we are progressing with technology as being a means of progressing. There's a valuing in that sort of progressing and using information to actually go forwards. Now, yeah, I can definitely see that working together, a whole like communal aspect to actually have idea of problem solving and the idea of communal feeling being the two main parts that cause a society to actually progress and become better as a society. Okay, so those are all the questions. So, okay, no one's watching anymore, but yeah, I'll be able to give my analysis now. I think that you are almost certainly a sensory logical extrovert.
Oh,
I say
really?
because, yeah, I do think you're an SLE. Despite the doubts you may have had with that MBTI test, I think that my explanation of that would have been that maybe you become more people aware from being a manager in charge of lots and lots of people under you. But first of all, what's very clear is extrovert sensation in that you are someone who actually acts, who does things. You spend less time just sitting and thinking about doing things without actually doing them. You're more likely to actually go into and actually start acting on it quite quickly. And you could actually and there's this idea and this valuing of extrovert sensation, of actually decisively doing things, physically demonstrating your particular your passions and your interests in concrete results and decisive results. There's you also definitely have the extroverted irrational temperament. You kind of want to do things and you do them. You spend less time thinking so much about your you spend less time thinking about what you what you ought to be doing, what sort of order or structure reliability you're meant to be conforming to. For you, it's more about actually getting things done that you want to get done. And then we got the extroverted logic as a demonstrative function. You are a problem solver. You know how to make things work around you. You know how you can see. Oh, and the way you described your team is almost like putting the different parts of an engine together. You knew that this person will be right for this particular job, this person will be right for that particular job. You have a certain amount of extrovert intuition that could be helping. Makes sense as a role function, in that you can determine to a certain amount how people could potentially act in your company. And so then using extroverted logic as where they'd be most useful, you then slide them into the right positions. And that also shows a certain amount of introverted logic. You also know exactly where to divide people up in the right way. These people go in this group, these people go in that group. So there's a great amount of logic helping your extroverted sensation. Now, what we can also see is a clear valuing of extroverted ethics. You are not someone who is clearly the sort of most passionate communicator. You are better at communicating facts in business. However, you do take the time to affirm what you think is good, and actually show that emotional appreciation of that particular thing. You also believe in very much what I see as beta values. The idea of there being this sort of community where people are almost on an equal footing in that community, all accepted equally in that community, and each lend their own opinion in that community. And there's the idea that these values are kind of shared by that community, and anyone who's outside the community, these values don't necessarily extend to, which is part of what people see as the aristocracy of beta. It's the idea that we all set together in our group, and people who are outside our group, they don't quite share in what we ourselves have because they're not part of the same community as us. There's also a sense that there are rules that people must follow within that group so that they can actually contribute to the community, so that they can actually be a proper part of it. You have to have committed in some way to actually be part of it. And so people who violate these rules or commitments, like littering on the ground, like littering public spaces, you find can particularly anger you. That's almost it's not simply a disrespect to nature or disrespect to the space. It's disrespect to the entire community. And that's why you almost need to call in the rules, call in the law to actually enforce the law on in these situations. I feel it fits very much into this whole beta quadra values, and the idea that you find, and comparing the beta values with the almost more alpha values is more, people can find a bit more frivolous in how they just they like meeting people, almost anyone, having fun with them, and then finding more people. So extroverted ethics with extroverted intuition. For you, you're valuing extroverted ethics with extroverted sensation. So you prefer people to actually have a certain physical tie to each other, physical sense of demonstration of their togetherness. So there has to be not only introverted intuition, so a long-term purpose to strive for, but also their physical action demonstrating that you are striving for that long-term goal. And this, the idea is that without that sort of long-term purpose and that sort of fighting together for something, it comes across as being almost cheapened, of lacking that sense of solidarity. So it very much fits into the sort of beta quadra values. So overall, finally, we saw a bit on introverted ethics, in that as being a business-oriented sort of person, when someone brings in their a personal issue to you, or they suddenly slide it into the conversation when you're already doing the business stuff, you find it difficult to suddenly adjust to that sort of interpersonal need, and that can show up being weaker ethics. Possibly more so weaker introverted ethics, as it's someone taking a more personal need to you, and it's between you and that person, rather than the group affirmation or group feeling. So overall, I think that sensory logical extrovert makes sense. Oh, one thing I'll say, also, your merry values, extrovert ethics, are shown in that you like a team who it does feel together, who does feel open, able to share how they feel in that. Now, what you don't like is when that forms smaller factions in the group, because you feel that almost the control of a group is based on everyone feeling together and feeling united in something. And as soon as people start forming their own factions, it almost goes outside of your control of the group. It becomes more, each person has their own little bosses in these particular areas, and they answer to people that are different to people are meant to answer to. And it forms a sort of separation, and not only does it break the extroverted ethics, but it also can be seen as a threat to your extroverted sensation. So yeah, I think that SLE makes perfect sense for you, and I don't think that an MBTI test can say anything to change your mind on that.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, so the two, the two alternatives that I had was this SCE by the MBTI test,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes people say to me like, "Oh, you are so much of ILE," because I have a lot of ideas all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That that's why I decided to to go for this interview.
Mm. Now, all I'd say for that is a question of you developing your two-dimensional information elements. So your role and your mobilizing functions are things which we achieve a certain level of adequacy at, and we can spend some time focusing on these areas. And as a result, people may think, oh, we're actually ethical, oh, we're actually intuitive. But really, our main strength, which we've always been good at, have been our leading functions. For you, it would always have been sensation, and it would always have been logic. But because you've been now focusing on these more brainstorming ideas and focusing on these more interpersonal interactions, you may have found yourself sliding in between ILE and SCE. But yeah, and we can see that neither of these are so apparent in you as a personality. You are more apparently the pragmatist. You're more apparent actually putting things into actual action, and in doing things in a business-like manner where you solve the problems. So I think this is actually just a sign of you adapting and becoming more well-rounded as a person, rather than losing your identity. And I think there's a need to almost place in the hierarchy what your main core strengths are, and things which are further down which you have been developing, so that you can be a more efficient boss.
Right. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a nice day, Ihor.
Thank you, Jack. Bye bye.
Bye.